Alright everybody, it's time for my Zelda Tears of the Kingdom review. Y'all knew it was coming, man. I was like, how much longer should I wait? Should I keep playing? Should I torture more bokoblins? Should I find more ways to cheese the Gleeoks or the Lionels? Should I complete every single side quest and uncover all of the depths? Hell no, ain't nobody got time for that. Anyways, I cannot do this game justice. There's so much to say, I'm just gonna wing it. I don't even have talking points. I'm just gonna go from memory based on my experiences. So I put about, 50 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, which by a lot of streamers and content creators and hardcore gamers perspective is like nothing. Some of y'all have 100, 200, 300. I don't even know, a lot of hours. Y'all are a bunch of damn nerds, dude. Like, I thought I was a nerd. Holy crap. No, for real though, it's an amazingly huge game. There's so much to discuss. So where to begin? Well, why not start at the beginning? So the game starts off in a Castlevania Symphony of the Night fashion, and what I mean by that is it starts you off with all your health, all your stamina, you've got all sorts of cool gear and stuff. You're super strong and super badass. And of course, we all knew if you've played any game ever before that it's all just a big tease and they're gonna take it away from you. So the opening cutscene happens and it's pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. The crazy skeleton dude that freaks out and you try to hit him, but then you fail and then Link gets completely bodied and then Zelda goes flying and he tries to catch her, but he just barely misses. And then the world kind of opens up in a way that's very similar to Breath of the Wild, where you just like walk out into the open world and it's like, oh. The key difference here being that you're way up in the sky. That's like kind of the big gimmick of this game, is that it's not just expanding horizontally, it's expanding vertically. So the sky travel stuff and the depths, of course, is like the big difference with this game. The major difference between this and Breath of the Wild is that Link has a ton of new abilities, and the most substantial one is the Ultra Hand and the auto build feature, or basically the ability to build things. And build things people did. We saw everything from giant penis monsters to huge flying devices that destroyed all of Hyrule. I too participated in making a lot of these devices. In fact, probably half of the time I spent playing Tears of the Kingdom was just building things. And to backtrack a little bit, when I first got the game and we first started building things, you were on the river, you were building a little raft, you were like improvising ways to get across gaps and stuff. That was incredibly magical. That was like one of the coolest moments I can remember in gaming recently. Like when I was in there with the Ultra Hand trying to figure stuff out and learning the physics of the game. By the way, the physics engine in this game with the building and how everything works is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't know how they got this stuff to work. Everything is absolutely insane, especially when you bring the rewind function in. You can like everything. It's like, what the hell? It's so crazy. Everything comes into play, like speed, weight, distribution, like all of this stuff seamlessly works together and it works really well. So in the beginning Sky Island of the game, basically the tutorial of the game, you are running all over the place trying to figure out what does what, building all sorts of weird gadgets and whatnots, finding your way to the shrines, getting new abilities, ascending upwards, building freaking birds that go flying and then they disappear or they don't work quite right. You end up falling to your death. Or sometimes you have amazing successes and fly to places that I don't know if you guys have seen any speedruns, but the stuff you can do with birds are freaking nuts. You can fly straight from one shrine to the next, not in a way that Nintendo necessarily intended, but in a way that people have figured out how to do. And all of that just goes to show how big and huge and ridiculous this game is. I'm sure Nintendo knew all sorts of crazy things would be done. Would they expect all of this stuff to be done? Probably not. Clearly there are glitches and whatnot that they did not intend for that people have figured out, but oh man, we haven't even left the starter island and I'm still blabbing forever. This is gonna be a long review, dude. Let me go ahead and skip straight to some of the criticisms I've heard. So I've talked to all sorts of people and like most people love this game. They have so much fun, very excited and stuff. but I've talked to several people who actually don't really care for it. They do have some criticisms, and there are some shared criticisms among them that I think are interesting. So Tears of the Kingdom is such a massive, ridiculous game. It's open world where your objective it's not neatly paved out for you. You kind of like, there are things you're supposed to do, like go rescue the sages and blah, blah, blah. But you don't have to do that. You can do a million other things, and you can just go straight to the final boss and not do any of that other stuff also if you want to. Which is kind of what I did. I did one sage and then went and beat the game, and you wouldn't believe how many nerds got triggered by this action. I had all these people commenting like, "You're supposed to get all the sages. Why would you rush this beautiful masterpiece of a game? I can't believe this is so stupid." And yeah, I didn't really understand that, because isn't that the point of the game? To play it however you want to? And for me personally, I really enjoyed figuring out the boss rush at the end. So I had to figure out how to beat all these bosses in a row in a pretty weak state. I didn't have great weapons. I didn't have a lot of hearts. I didn't have a lot of upgrades or anything, but I had to learn these bosses. To me, that was like a more rewarding challenge. I feel like if I had gone to all the dungeons first, it would have been pretty easy. I would have gotten overpowered and I would have steamrolled the final boss. But for me, like, it ended up being a really fantastic challenge, and I enjoyed it a lot. Since then, I've gone back and done a few of the dungeons. I did the Wind Temple, I did the Gerudo Temple, the Lightning Temple, I've done the Fire Temple. I still have not done the Zora Temple yet. Anyways, I got sidetracked, so criticisms of the game that I've heard. So one of the common criticisms I have heard about this game is they don't like the shrines, they don't like the open world aspect, and I was kind of thinking about that. And I totally get it. I do, I totally understand why you wouldn't like those things. Even for me, it's like it's a little tough for me because, listen, I don't have 200 hours to pour into one game. Hell, I don't have 100 hours to pour into one game. And this game is so huge. If you want to do all the shrines, uncover all the areas, do all the crazy quests, all this stuff, like for me, that is never gonna happen. So honestly, I do prefer a more linear, streamlined experience where it only takes like 50 to 60 hours max to 100% the game. So as far as that goes, I'm in full agreement. There's too much. It's too much, man. There's too much freaking stuff. It's like, for me, like I totally agree with that. So ultimately, I understand both sides of this argument. And with the open world and all the content that the game does have, it's tough. You can't satisfy both sides. But for me, I'm just like, well, I'll just play until I don't feel like playing anymore, and then I'll put it away. I'm fine with not getting 100% on it. It's especially tough for me because I spend most of my time just goofing off building Zonai devices and torturing random enemies and making videos or finding ridiculous glitches and flying around the world. So I understand the complaint with the shrines too. Like, there are many shrines that feel redundant to other shrines. The challenge doesn't feel like it's there. The puzzling aspect is kind of whatever. On the other hand, there are some shrines that are incredibly cool and so creative. The solutions you gotta use to solve them are very amazing. It kind of reminds me of Super Mario Odyssey versus Super Mario 64. Mario Odyssey went with a quantity over quality approach with the moon gathering. And I felt that way in Odyssey too, where I was like, man, there's so many moons. And a lot of these moons don't really feel like they have a lot of substance behind them. Like, not a lot of thought went into them. They're just like randomly placed. There's so many moons versus like Mario 64, which had less moons, the stars, but it felt like each star felt more significant than the moons did in Mario Odyssey. So for me, quality over quantity always wins. And in some cases, Tears of the Kingdom feels like quantity over quality. And if we're going to branch out into other areas, not just talk about shrines, but the game as a whole, I think it does suffer from a quantity over quality thing a lot. And I think this is just going to happen in huge open world games. Like, not everything can be like super meaningful and substantive. And for me, there were so many side quests and people to talk to that I'm just like I'm not interested. Like, I don't want to talk to this person. There's so many things to do. I don't have enough time to like do all these tiny little freaking things that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So that kind of wraps around to the whole like streamlined Zelda game versus a huge immersive Zelda game. I see both sides. Now, as for the gameplay itself, it plays very similar to Breath of the Wild, which is good. It's fun. The combat is fun. Parrying and flurry rushes and bows and arrows. The new abilities in this Zelda, fusing items, is pretty cool. However, I think this is another case where the quality over quantity starts to bleed in. Towards the end of the game, I had so many items, but I was only ever fusing like a few items to my bow. There were so many other items that I would never fuse to my bow under any circumstances. Same as with my weapons. So in the beginning of the game, it felt like you would fuse anything to a weapon or to a bow just for fun to see how it would react or what would happen, or to get any extra edge you could in a dicey situation. But by the mid game and onwards, it felt like you just had all this stuff you would never use in a fusion, and it felt a little overwhelming. I'm like, why do I need to, when you're trying to attach something to an arrow? I'm sure you guys saw my short where I'm like scrolling through 1,000 items, like I'm like, why are there so many items to attach to my bow? This is freaking nuts. Long story short, I think the novelty was fun at first, but by the end of the game, the novelty of that kind of wears off. Another gripe I have is not enough enemy diversity, man. Look at Elden Ring. How many bosses and crazy enemies are there in Elden Ring? If you were to compare the list of enemies in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom to the list of enemies in Elden Ring, the Elden Ring would be like and Tears of the Kingdom would be like 3 dudes. Obviously, that's an underestimate, but it's kind of true, though. There's not enough enemy diversity. I was hoping for way more like epic bosses. They reuse the same enemies too much. The silver versions of all the enemies, which is fine to have those, but we need more variety enemies on top of that. We need more bosses, more mini bosses. Fighting like 400 different types of Lionels isn't very exciting. They all behave the same way. I went to the Coliseum, did the 5 Lionel boss rush, and they're so easy. If you can beat one Lionel, you can beat any Lionel. No problem. I would love for there to be more exciting bosses. One of my favorite bosses, my favorite boss in the entire game was Ganondorf. It was a dark fight, one-on-one for the most part, where it felt kind of like Dark Souls. And not to sound like a Dark Souls fanboy, I don't want all the fights to be like that, by the way. I actually really love the gimmicky battles too. I really like the Wind Temple boss where you're flying around shooting him. I really like the Fire Temple boss where you're spinning the dude, hitting the eyeball and stuff, and there's lots of different unique ways you can kill them. I love those bosses, and I want those to be in the game, but I also want there to be a lot of Ganondorf-type bosses as well. So long story short, with all this long rant, is I just want more enemies, mini-bosses, variety, and stuff to do. I'm in the end game, I'm OP as shit, but I got no one to fight. No one to fight, man. Who am I gonna fight? Another Gleeok? Another Lionel? Like, what? Come on, man. Now let's shift to like exploration in this game, because I had so much fun exploring in this game from the beginning to the mid game. So much fun, dude. Everything you find is so exciting. Every new area you uncover, every tower you got. You unlock the tower and you shoot into the sky, and then you're flying and you open up a whole new area and you're soaring around. You're like, "Whoa, look at that over there. Oh, look at that over there." You bust out your binoculars or your little camera thing and you're like, there's a shrine. You're marking the spots on your map. Or you see a Lionel in the distance and you're like, oh, there's a Lionel over there. I'm gonna try to fight that guy. And then he whoops your ass because you only have 4 hearts and a stick. The exploration is amazing. It's so fun. You can explore for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I do think eventually it gets old, where you're kind of like, all right, give me ultimate fast travel. Like, did you guys see the glitch where I'm soaring through the sky on the Zonai device that it glitched? I feel like you should be able to unlock something like that eventually at the end game. Obviously, that would be like an ultimate item after you've done some super crazy quest. Maybe the Korok seeds. Oh, the Korok seeds. Guys, I hate the Korok seeds. I'm not a fan of the Korok seeds. How many are there? I've heard there's like 1,000 or 900. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much, dude. Quality over quantity, please. But I know they're just trying to fill up the massive world. And I know a lot of you guys enjoy going and looking for them, but it's just not for me. I'm never gonna I got like 50 Korok seeds, and I will probably never get another one. There's absolutely so much to talk about this game. You can spend 50 hours building things. You can spend 50 hours just running around exploring. You can spend 50 hours torturing bokoblins with your Majora's Mask and blending in and doing funny stuff. And that is the beauty of this game and why you will get your money's worth from this game no matter what. Even if you're somebody that doesn't like the open world that much, you're not going to do all the stuff. I mean, listen to me. I'm not going to do half that stuff, but I absolutely loved this game so much, and I got so much value out of this game. It doesn't matter if I don't 100% it. And I think that can apply to any casual gamer. I think somebody who just plays 5 hours a week can get this game, play 5 hours a week over the course of 2 months, 3 months, and beat the game, do tons of stuff, have such a good time, and then call it a day. Or if they really want to, they can keep doing that 5 hours a week for a year. I mean, there's so many games to play, so I feel like it's hard to do that. But if you're a big enough Zelda fanboy and you don't really want to play that much other stuff, well, this game will give you content for a long, long time. But for me, at some point, stuff like item duplication became very appealing because I don't want to spend hours farming Gleoks or Lionels or some shit like that. Hours doing that when I could just do a dupe and get that stuff and then be on my way. There's too much stuff to do, and I do feel like there is inherently a problem when there's a grinding element to a game that's unappealing, and like when you have the ability to skip it, you do it without any sort of, you don't even think about it, you just do it. And I know there's some people who didn't do it. They were like, no, I want to play the game. I want to play the game for real. And I respect it. I totally understand. You know, I put in 30 plus hours into this game without any sort of shenanigans. But then once item duping came around and I was trying to like do all this crazy stuff with Zonai devices, the amount of resources that it takes to power a super strong Zonai device and keep it going, the amount of stuff you need to get the maxed out batteries, to keep the Zonai device running for a long time so these custom builds work, is ridiculous. Without item duping, it would be so inconceivable to even try it. And that's where there's kind of a problem, you know? There's so much time you have to sink into the game to get something in return, but it seems like I need to dump hours and hours and hours to get that little bit in return that if I didn't dupe, dude, I would still be farming Zonai in the depths right now. I wouldn't have made half the videos that I made. I thought the dungeons were pretty fun in this game. I really enjoyed the Wind Temple. I enjoyed the Gerudo Temple, Lightning Temple, and you know what? The Fire Temple I didn't really like that much, though. I ended up cheesing the whole thing. I was kind of like big and lost, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna attach a rocket and shoot to the top. I feel like I have laid down a lot of criticisms, it sounds like, but just to reel it back a bit, this is such a beautiful, beautiful game. It's an open sandbox. It's so much fun. There's so much stuff you can do. The system, the building system is incredible, like earth-shatteringly incredible. That right there, I feel like, is the true beauty of this game. The fact that you can just take it and play with it for hours and have so much fun doing it. Beyond that, I think there are legitimate criticisms about whether it's the open world or the shrines or the dungeons, maybe the bosses and enemies. You know, I laid down a lot of different thoughts about those certain things. I think there's good and bad about all these different things. I think you could take any one of those topics and dig much more into it than I have here. Talk about the good things, talk about the bad things. But overall, Tears of the Kingdom is an incredible, incredible game. Whether you like open world games or not, you can have fun with this game. It will give you hours of entertainment. 9 out of 10. Man. Yeah, 9 out of 10. I almost want to give it a 9.5, you guys. I have so many things that I think could be better about the game, but I still want to give it a 9.5. It's so much fun. I feel like item duping is what pushed it to 9.5 for me, because it allowed me to have so much more fun with it. I was able to break it open and really play with it a lot more. Like all those crazy builds you saw me do would not have been possible without item duplication. I know that's a hot button topic. Some people will get really triggered by it and be like, that's cheating and BS. That's not playing the game. You're stupid. You're stupid. So that's it. Tears of the Kingdom is an amazing game. I highly endorse it. Even though it sounded like I threw down like 10 minutes worth of complaining, like that's just nitpicking at the end of the day. There are things that I do legitimately think could be better, and there are different things I would like out of a Zelda experience. That's not this. But damn, I loved it. Anyways, I just rambled for 30 minutes. I have no idea if any of it made sense, but like, subscribe. Oh, there is one more thing I would like to touch on, a little bonus bit. So this topic is a little bit outside of the game itself and more about the culture around it. Specifically when it comes to streamers, content creators, and the internet. And there's definitely two sides to this, so bear with me. On the one side, it's super annoying how content creators like myself, streamers, are rushing to unearth every little detail, every secret, beat the game, speedrun the game into oblivion, completely destroy the game as fast as possible. Just for an example, like 2 days into this game coming out, there were already inconceivable builds, people with like maxed out hearts, everything so fast, the internet being flooded with all this crap. I'm like, the game's been out 2 days. People are tweeting like, I've already played Tears of the Kingdom for 40 hours, even though it's only been out for 30. I'm like, what? What? And look, I totally get it. It's a cutthroat industry, and the first person there will get the most views. But sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it sucks, man. It feels like we're just always rushing, and it's hard to really truly enjoy anything. And within like a week or two of the game being out, it's like everything has already been done. So it's done. It's all been done. And at this point, there's really nothing that can be done about it. This is how the internet culture works. This is how getting views works as a streamer, as a content creator. It's just a shame, you know? I'm not really sure what to do about it. Anyways, go play Tears of the Kingdom. You will not be disappointed. Hashtag not sponsored. Screw you, Nintendo. And you're welcome. And thank you, Nintendo, for making this beautiful game. Oh no, you know what? One more bonus thing. Most of y'all are not even going to see this because you probably clicked off the previous 2 times I looked like I was ending the video. But hey, that's why it's bonus content. It's like for the people who stay until after the credits in the theater, you know? So one thing I didn't talk about at all in this game is the story and the ending, which is kind of funny because I kind of graze over that because the gameplay, for me, overshadows the story so much. But the gist of it is you go around, do all this stuff to find sages that will help you fight Ganondorf, and also you get all these memories that show you some of the history of Hyrule and Zelda and like all that stuff. Ganondorf's history, how he came to be, how he was sealed away and all that stuff. Zelda is the flying dragon, and I don't 100% know. I guess she's been a dragon for a really long time. The story stuff I don't 100% know, but we know she is the dragon in this game at least. Anyways, you beat the game, the dragon turns back into Zelda, and then Link is flying down and the music is epic as hell. And he grabs her and they fall into the lake. Nah, I'm not gonna lie, that was cool as shit. I thought that was awesome. And then the last thing that happens is a monologue from Zelda because Link doesn't talk. So Zelda's just like, oh Link, thank you for saving me. Oh my goodness. And it's nice and stuff, but it's kind of it's kind of funny that Link doesn't talk. He has no personality whatsoever. So it's just Zelda talking to a brick wall. Essentially, Link is just like... And I do think Link's lack of a personality does complicate the emotional storytelling element to this game. That is a whole nother topic. I'm not going to dive into that. So this is more just like nitpicking stuff, but I do feel like story-wise, the story is pretty interesting with Zelda turning into a dragon, all the sages, the way they all interact, King Hyrule, and dude, the Zelda universe is huge and crazy and stuff. But if we're really digging into the story and the emotional impact of the story and stuff, I do think that it could be a lot better if that's what they want to go for. Maybe y'all disagree with that? I don't know. Anyways, that's just my 2 cent babbling right there. Thank you for listening. Love you, and good night.